And now on to the reason we are all here today, where we get to continue our product and wellness learning from none other than our chairman and founder, David Schmidt. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. We'll do our best to answer as many as we can. But now I'd like to turn the time over to our founder and chairman, David Schmidt. David.
Wayne, good to see you.
You as well, David. Thank you so much for doing another webinar for us. It's an incredible month. I can't believe
Oh,
that conference is right around the corner now.
always my privilege to spend time with our brand partners. You did come back from Ireland, but you also did come back from another country as well.
We
And
did. I was going to
I,
save that for you.
well, I thought we could take just a minute to share that with our community this morning. We had an incentive trip, and we had the very top leaders that were in the business. Oh, come on back on video for a minute, Wayne, so we can chat for a second. So we had the very top leaders in the business that came over to this incentive trip in Denmark. And this is one of the reasons why we encourage our brand partners to advance in rank, because they have access to these incentive trips that they wouldn't normally get. So first, I would say we spoiled them rotten with things such as a beautiful dinner cruise through Denmark. We also took them to the best spa that's in Copenhagen. We took them out to dinner, put them up in the #1 hotel in the center of Copenhagen. But of course, the reason why they were there is so that they could see what is coming down the road with technology for LifeWave. And we had the grand opening of our drone production facility in Denmark, and our top leaders got a chance to see, feel, touch, and experience the technology behind the home power generation system. And then we had a great big celebration afterwards. And certainly my impression from that event, based on the feedback from the leaders, is they were totally blown away with the whole experience and what they got to see.
Oh, we were all blown away, David. And it was such an honor to be invited there and to be able to witness that incredible event. I don't know if I've ever been to an event with so many dignitaries and incredible brand partner leaders that were there. So thank you for letting us get a peek behind the curtain in some of your many inventions. And as you said, it really did give a glimpse into the future of LifeWave and some of the incredible products that are coming down that are really not only category creating, but world changing. And I know that myself and all of us are just so excited to be part of that and to watch this unfold. So thank you for bringing us all there.
And I think one thing more that's worth mentioning to give our community a sense for how well we are doing in this project with our drones that'll be out there in a few years for humanitarian purposes. We had a big surprise, and I got to make an announcement on this to our leaders, and where I introduced to them His Royal Highness Prince Joachim of Denmark. And so our leaders got a chance to shake hands with the prince as well as hear from him, and why humanitarian efforts are so very important to him and the royal family of Denmark. So it was incredible experience, and delighted that it was so successful. And of course, we're carrying that into the October conference, which is going to be as you said, the biggest and most amazing conference we've had so far.
Absolutely. Again, thank you so much. It was next level, out of this world event. So thank you.
Absolutely. All righty. Well, with that, let's go ahead and start having our discussion today about stress. Now, there may be for some people that this is a subject that they're not so much interested in, or they don't really care about it so much. But let's take a scenario here. Let's say that you're a man or woman and you're having a stressful day. Maybe you started off the day and you had a fight or a disagreement with your significant other. You went into work. On the way to work, maybe you hit a lot of traffic, and that was frustrating. Um, let's say you got to work and it was an exceptionally busy and hectic day, and this is raising your levels of anxiety. So the human body is extraordinarily resilient, and our bodies are designed to handle and can adapt to stress. But if this is something that is a chronic state where you're experiencing these stressors on a daily basis, it can have very detrimental long-term effects on your overall health, your health span, and your longevity. Even in the short term, having high levels of stress can affect the way that your brain will process information. You can actually have a type of short-term memory loss if you're under acute stress. If you go to the gym in the afternoon after a very stressful day, you'll notice that your exercise performance has declined significantly. You may find disruption in your sleep. And for those of you that want to have reduced body fat, you want to have lean muscle, this is a problem because the night, of course, is when we're going to be repairing the body and balancing out the hormones. Of course, in a prolonged state of stress, we're going to elevate our body's levels of cortisol. We could decrease our dopamine levels, and this could lead to depression, anxiety, panic attacks, and lead to weight gain. So there are a number of very good reasons as to why we want to manage stress. So we're going to talk today about having some solutions to this. Now, a number of these solutions are fortunately absolutely free. I'm going to start off with, we'll do this a little bit differently this week, where we're going to start off with a solution, and then I want to break down the problem so we can put the problem into perspective, and then let's talk about the natural solutions that exist for dealing with stress. But we'll start off with giving a few. The first thing is that can often be overlooked is, what do you do the first thing in the morning when you wake up? How are you setting the tone and the pace of the day? Many of us today in the world that we live in, we get up in the morning and first thing we do is we look at our cell phones, we look at the news, we look at emails, and this is actually a mistake. We should be taking a moment after we wake up to be in a sense of gratitude. Now, for those of you that believe in God, I would suggest that you pray and you give thanks to God. You give thanks for your wife or husband. You give thanks for your kids, your family. Give thanks for the home that you're living in. Give thanks that you have food and clothing. Thanks for your friends. Thank you for the beautiful day. Be appreciative and get into a state of gratitude. This is not only the right thing to do, but it also de-stresses your body and puts your mindset in the correct frame for moving ahead with the rest of the day. If you are agnostic, you're an atheist, you don't believe in God, I would ask, give this a try just for 7 days and be thankful for everything that it is that you have in your life. In personal relationships, let's say I have a beautiful, amazing wife that I'm so grateful for. But I know if I don't stop and give thanks and appreciation and gratitude towards her, that is not going to have a very good effect on our relationship. So it's so very important that we start the day by being thankful and appreciative, and it really does set a tone for the day. Okay, now other things that we can do in our life that are a positive way to manage stress. One is exercise. And exercise is going to place a stress on the body. However, it's a beneficial stress. There is a phenomena in nature that's truly amazing. One of the most powerful antioxidants that we can take is astaxanthin. Astaxanthin is derived from an algae. And the way that it's made is to stress the algae with heat. So in response to the elevated heat or temperature and UV light, the algae produces astaxanthin as an antioxidant to protect it from damage. So this is a positive stress. With exercise, and astaxanthin, by the way, is several thousand times more powerful than vitamin C. With exercise, it's very similar. We're going to put a positive stress on the body, and as long as then as we have room for growth, we get adequate amounts of protein and healthy fats, we get adequate amounts of sleep, our body is then going to adapt by increasing muscle mass and decreasing body fat. When we fast, this is another positive stress that we put on the body. And this gives us an opportunity to increase growth hormone, increase testosterone, reduce body fat, use body fat for energy. So there are positive stresses, and these are good things to incorporate to manage unhealthy stress, like emotional stress and working too many hours. But before we talk about a number of other natural solutions, and by the way, another reason for dealing with this is, let's say you're someone that works too many hours, you have a lot of stress, and you have elevated blood pressure. So we want to reduce our risk of heart attack, of stroke. When we have proper stress management, we can also get blood pressure back into a normal range without having to use medication. Now, there are specific protocols for naturally reducing blood pressure, but if you're looking for another benefit of stress management, then I would say one of those benefits is to getting blood pressure back into a normal range, getting your body mass index back into a normal range. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to share my screen. And let's go through this now and talk about some of the consequences of stress so we can frame this properly. And I want to start with the most important one, and that is, if we're constantly living in a state of stress, this is going to lead to accelerated aging. So one of the things that we do here at LifeWave is we look at species that defy the aging process. And there are a number of species such as planaria, hydractinia, lobsters, tardigrade that defy aging. They either don't age at all, or they have extraordinarily long lifespans and health spans, meaning they don't age through the aging process. The longer they live, they're not showing any signs of aging, or they are functionally immortal. And one thing that we notice in all of these species is that they have complete control over oxidative and inflammatory stress. So here's another way to look at this, is that in human beings, where we don't have these sophisticated mechanisms of managing stress, the chronic stress over a period of years will damage healthy tissue, damage DNA, and cause a change in gene expression, which leads to aging. So this is really important to understand, because if we want to stop and reverse human aging, one of the things we need to do is have mastery over oxidative and inflammatory stress. When you come to the conference in October, I'm going to be talking about this in a little bit more detail. But a simple way to understand this is to go right to the part of the cell that makes energy, and that's going to be the mitochondria. So that is the energy center, the power center of the cell. And just like we would put petroleum, gasoline, diesel in our automobile, and that's the fuel for the engine, the mitochondria produces ATP. That's going to be the fuel for everything else that uses energy in the body. So if we damage the part of the cell that's making energy, then that means we can't repair our tissue, we can't make hormones, we can't exercise, we can't think properly. The brain and the heart are using massive amounts of energy. So we compromise the mitochondria, and all of those other functions in the body are going to be compromised. They're going to start to slow down. So that means if we live in a state of stress, so stress is something that we don't manage well on a daily basis. This is going to affect the way that we process and handle information. It's going to affect our memory, and this is going to lead to poor performance in the workplace. Many people then will rely on caffeine, and then they get into this vicious cycle. Caffeine, totally unnecessary. You can improve your cognition, your mental alertness naturally. And part of this is keeping the energy up in the mitochondria. Another thing that happens, another phenomena is called inflammaging. And this is a relatively new term. And functionally what it means is that as we age, the body accumulates inflammation and it becomes a normal state. So many people after the age of 50, they suffer pain, reduced mobility, achiness, and they say, well, it's just part of aging. No, it absolutely does not have to be a normal part of aging. If we can manage stress and get stress under control, which we'll talk about today, through a variety of natural means, what that means is that the pain levels come down, the mobility returns, mental alertness returns, exercise performance returns, and you start to functionally feel and look younger. So that's part of the point of all this. Okay, so there's going to be a number of studies, which we're not going to go through all today in the interest of time, but this is just to emphasize how important it is to manage stress. So long-term chronic stress can even lead to things like Alzheimer's disease and dementia. So when we think about getting over the age of 60, 70, 80, two things that we should be very concerned about is keeping our cognitive abilities and keeping our athletic abilities. So a program of regular exercise to maintain our bone density, maintain our muscle mass, maintain our strength and stamina. That way, as we're getting into our later years in life, which we hope to be very, very long-lived past what's normal with LifeWave technology, these can be very functional decades of our life. One of the things we'll talk about at conference are new ways to exercise in dramatically short periods of time for incredibly great results. As little as 10 minutes of exercise a few times a week. I'll be talking about that again at conference. But again, the point here is that we have multiple reasons in both physically and mentally for wanting to reduce stress. Okay, effects of chronic stress on cognitive function. Here again is another study that is linking chronic stress to neurodegeneration. Okay. This is something that we may not often think about. We talked about the benefits of exercise relative to these positive stressors. And, you know, it's interesting when we look at the different methods of exercise. We can look at bodybuilders as an example. And by the way, modern bodybuilding, I would not consider that to be a healthy activity. because of the use of performance enhancing drugs. Those are not sports where there's so much concerned about longevity. But we can look at the different methods of training and walk away with some very interesting things. So, for example, one of the methods that you'll see in clinical studies for exercise is to use very high weight with very low repetitions, low volume. So we're getting very high intensity. There are even people like Dorian Yates, six-time Mr. Olympia, who advocated 1 or 2 sets of exercise per body part twice a week, 2 to 4 times per week. And that was it. Very low volume, but very, very high intensity, finishing each set to failure. On the other hand, in the clinical studies, you see that you could use extremely low weight. There was a bodybuilder by the name of Serge Nubret. He was French and absolutely incredible physique. He was a bodybuilder during the 70s and 80s. And he was known for using extremely lightweight, but very, very high volume. And the clinical research bears this out. So this is just to say that there is this beneficial stress that you can put on your body. But on the other hand, if we're talking about emotional stress, long work hours, accumulation of cortisol, this is going to have a detrimental effect on your athletic performance. And you can see this if you go to the gym after a long, hard day. And this site is also pretty good because it gives number of different options on managing stress for optimal performance. Okay, this was also an interesting study. This should be very self-evident in men that chronic stress leads to a decrease in sexual function in men. So for example, if you're a man and you're under chronic stress and you've got weight gain, elevated levels of cortisol above normal, you have high blood pressure, this is absolutely going to have a detrimental effect on your ability to obtain and sustain an erection. For women, maybe it's not so intuitive, but this article lays this out, that for women, it's equally as devastating how stress will affect sexual function and sexual desire. So what this article goes through, I won't get into the details about it because some of you might find it objectionable, but this is just to say that when women are under stress, it's very difficult for them to become aroused. That's probably good information for men. Gentlemen, if your wife or partner has had a tough day and you are interested in having sexual activity with your partner, you better find a way to de-stress your lady. Otherwise, this study shows she is simply not going to be in the mood. Okay. No mystery here. Stress can affect your sleep. We need to get at least a minimum of 6 hours of sleep per day, preferably 7 to 9 hours of sleep. If you are someone that is a professional athlete or you're looking to maximize your muscle gain, you're going to be more in the 8 to 9 hours of sleep. Otherwise, for the rest of us, 7 to 8 hours is going to be very healthy. And if we've had a very stressful day, this can create a problem. Of course, we have our Celergize evening formula that's coming out. We have Silent Nights, we have Eon, and having a hot bath in magnesium salts, maybe a little bit of lavender, essential oil, will de-stress the body and get our body primed for sleep. So this is something that we don't want to forget about. Okay, and then the impact of stress on sleep, how it's related to insomnia and disrupting our circadian rhythms. So I think this is enough said now on this topic. I think we've drilled home the point here. that if we have acute stress, okay, everybody's going to have a tough day every once in a while, but we do need to be proactive and have strategies. Otherwise, chronic stress is going to have very, very far-reaching effects, and if left unchecked, will undoubtedly reduce our lifespan and have a detrimental effect on our health span. In other words, it'll age us. So what do we do about all of this? Well, first thing, let's talk about some of the tools that we have at LifeWave for dealing with stress. And the top one we're going to talk about is Aeon. That is absolutely our top product for stress management. So how does it work? You apply the Aeon patch, and it elevates a peptide that's naturally found in the liver. And this peptide is going to elevate glutathione and also elevate the antioxidant SOD. So it's activating what we would call the primitive immune system. And what we see in our studies is that this has an immediate effect on balancing out the autonomic nervous system. So in other words, when we could be either in a parasympathetic, in the autonomic nervous system, you could be in a sympathetic or parasympathetic mode. Is your body in fight or flight, or are you in a state of relaxation? And what we found in our studies is that within seconds of applying the Aeon patch, the body goes into a state of balance. So if someone is in a state of fight or flight, it'll bring them back into a state of relaxation and balance. Now, this one study, we don't talk about it too often, but it's absolutely fascinating. We've been working with Dr. Glenn Ryan for many, many years. He's considered a world authority on different in vitro analysis. And here he did a study to see if the Aeon patch, amongst some others, was having any effect on human DNA. And basically what he did was he measured the electrical properties of DNA. And he took a placebo patch and he took an Aeon patch, and he applied the patch to the wrist, and he had the DNA in a solution in a tube, and he placed it over the acupuncture point over the wrist. And effectively what he found is that with the Aeon patch, and we had, I'll show you the chart over here. We had Aeon, Energy Enhancer, and SP6. And effectively what he was finding was that there was an immediate spike in electrical activity when the real patch was placed over the wrist. So we see that this is not a placebo effect, that even human DNA does immediately respond to our technology. Now, this was another study that we did with Dr. Melinda Connor. This was a pilot study, and it was looking at that when people use the Aeon patch, there's an improvement in the body's levels of dopamine. So dopamine is the feel-good biochemical, neurochemical in the body. And so if we elevate dopamine, we can go into a state of relaxation. So we found that the Aeon patch was balancing out dopamine activity. We then had a double-blind placebo-controlled study that we did on heart rate variability with Dr. Homer Nazarian at the University of Texas in El Paso. And here, what we found, the bottom line, the hypothesis that wearing the Aeon patch for 20 minutes reduces stress was accepted as true. So you apply the Aeon patch, and it's going to reduce stress on the body. Now, keep in mind, again, the way that it does this is through improvements in the antioxidant system. So this is why the Aeon patch is so perfect with X39. If you're someone that has had a chronic injury, you have chronic stress in the body, inflammatory stress. So a protocol is to apply X39 behind the neck or below the belly button, and then the Eon patch at the point of the injury, and you'll see an improvement as a result of doing that. If at the end of the day you have a lot of tension in your neck, apply the Eon patch right to the neck. You can wear it while you sleep, and you'll see a reduction in stress and in tension. Okay. Now, we also want to talk about some supplements that you can use on a daily basis to help manage stress. And many of you, like me, are using Celergize. It's part of your normal routine now. And there's an enormous number of benefits to Celergize. First, we include Scienthox because that's known to support the health and the vitality of the stem cells of the body, which is going to help to support healing. But Scienthox also is a very powerful antioxidant, and antioxidants help to control oxidative and inflammatory stress. We also have N-acetylcysteine, which is the precursor to glutathione, the body's master antioxidant. We have beta-alanine, which is the precursor to carnosine, another very powerful antioxidant that helps to protect the telomeres. And we also have magnesium. Magnesium is very important for helping to control stress on the nervous system, as well as make energy in the body and support the health of the mitochondria. So those are just some examples. So Celergize actually, if you're using it to support your overall health, one of the benefits is that it's also going to help to manage your daily stress. Now, many people enjoy green tea, and green tea has caffeine, but people notice they don't get jitters from drinking green tea, and that's because it's also rich in the amino acid theanine. Now, theanine is super interesting. If you're a man, pay close attention to something that I'm going to say in just a moment here. But theanine, we're going to have this in our Celergize evening formula, or you can go out and purchase this separately. I'd recommend you try 100 milligrams first, take that in the evening, or you can try as much as 200 milligrams. But theanine is not going to make you groggy in the morning, but it will help to promote a state of relaxation. You can also keep theanine with you during the day. And if you're experiencing some stress, you could take 100 milligrams of theanine to naturally calm down the nervous system. Now, theanine is a direct precursor to dopamine. So if you're someone that's under chronic stress and you've had a depletion in your dopamine levels, this could lead to depression, anxiety, or even getting panic attacks. So there's some good literature showing on how theanine helps to support a state of relaxation. There's also some very interesting work that I've looked at for men where theanine helps to improve blood flow. And this is so men can get an erection without having to use something like Viagra. Now, you wouldn't use this on its own. You would use natural materials like L-citrulline, potassium for improving the body's levels of nitric oxide. But you use theanine to relax the cardiovascular system. This improves blood flow, and it's a little bit counterintuitive. But in fact, there are studies to show that it will improve, it'll help to reduce erectile dysfunction in men. So a number of good reasons to use L-theanine. Now, magnesium, this would be I would say, foundational when we're talking about our overall health, as well as managing stress. Magnesium is so important that we need it to make energy in the body. We need it for proper mitochondrial function. So magnesium supplement would be very, very high on my list of things for people that should be taking in terms of a supplement. And 200 to 400 milligrams per day of a magnesium citrate, magnesium glycinate, magnesium taurate are all potential options. There's a form of magnesium called magnesium threonate that goes directly into the brain for relaxation, although that's something that you would take at night for going to sleep. But magnesium is absolutely critical. It's also shown that when people have high blood pressure, they have low levels of magnesium. Magnesium is also going to help to manage the body's levels of cortisol. So I wouldn't be able to emphasize this enough of how important it is for you to supplement each day with magnesium as a way of managing stress. Now, here's something that's interesting. Most medical doctors don't get training in nutrition and how to use amino acids, herbs, other natural compounds for treating various diseases. They're trained in pharmacology, how to use drugs. So it's really not most doctors' fault that they wouldn't go to recommend a natural amino acid. But when was the last time you would hear a doctor say, and by the way, there's thousands of doctors in the United States that are clinical nutritionists, but when was the last time you heard a doctor say, hey, you have chronic stress, take this amino acid called taurine, and it's not only is it going to be shown to reduce your stress, but it's also going to help to naturally lower your blood pressure. It's more effective than pharmaceuticals at lowering blood pressure, and it's also going to protect your nervous system. We just don't really hear about that. So taurine, incredibly effective at inducing a state of relaxation. You could start with 1,000 milligrams of taurine, and you could go up to 2, 3, 4 grams of taurine if you like. There are people that take 3 grams a day, and studies show that it's completely safe. But I'd say you could start with 1 gram of taurine in the evening, and it won't put you to sleep, but it'll put your body into a state of relaxation. So great natural way of managing stress. Now here's another one, GABA, which is a natural neurotransmitter. It's found in the brain. We did find, in fact, that X39 improves the body's levels of GABA. So many of you that use X39, you notice that you get an improvement in sleep. That's because it's supporting healthy levels of GABA. So it's an inhibitory neurotransmitter. So it is going to counteract the effects of glutamate in the brain, which is an excitatory neurotransmitter. So you can take a GABA supplement to put your body into a state of relaxation for combating stress. Many people think of it as something you just use at night, but if you're someone living with chronic stress, you could take a low dose of GABA during the day. Wouldn't recommend it all the time, but it's a tool that you have that's natural for dealing with stress as opposed to using drugs. And then the last one, which is also very interesting, is phosphatidylserine. Phosphatidylserine has been shown in studies not only to help manage stress, but help people deal with anxiety and depression. And it has the side benefit of improving memory and focus, and it also contributes to healthy levels of dopamine. So phosphatidylserine, if you're looking for a way to improve cognition and also deal with anxiety and stress, phosphatidylserine, 100 milligrams, 200 milligrams per day is a good place to start. And then the last one that I wanted to get to, which is maybe a little bit counterintuitive, is the amino acid tyrosine. Now, we often think of tyrosine as being a precursor to T3 and T4. So, in other words, you need tyrosine to make your thyroid hormones. However, it's also used to synthesize dopamine. So, again, if we're looking for natural methods of dealing with stress and anxiety, we could have a complex of tyrosine, theanine, phosphatidylserine, magnesium that are all going to support healthy levels of dopamine and de-stress our bodies naturally. And then, of course, there is plenty of information on dopamine and its benefits, but it's a lot more than just feeling good. Dopamine, as you can see, plays a role in kidney function. It's kind of interesting about that one is that in Eastern medicine, it's said that the kidneys are the battery of the body. The life energy is in the kidneys. So dopamine playing a role in kidney function at first seems maybe counterintuitive in Western medicine. But when we look at it from an Eastern perspective, we can say, okay, dopamine makes us feel good, it makes us relaxed, and this state of relaxation supports overall life energy. That's a way of thinking about it. And not surprisingly, that would improve our quality of sleep as well. So this is all to say that when we are managing our stress, there is a whole host of benefits. First, we could expect to have a longer, healthier life. In the short term, it's going to improve our cognition. We're going to think more clearly, process information better. The speed of processing improves, memory improves, athletic performance improves, sexual performance improves, quality of the sleep improves. So those reasons or more are why we should be managing our stress. And the good thing is you don't need drugs to do it. There are plenty of natural methods. So Wayne, a lot more to say on this subject, but that is a good toolkit for people to start with for dealing with their stress naturally.
Absolutely. David, thank you for sharing this powerful information. I know that stress isn't always the place that we start when we think about our wellness journey, but just listening to you and understanding the powerful impact that it has on our overall health, on all systems of the body, is a good reminder. And I actually felt my stress level increasing as I as I was listening, realizing how poorly I've probably been managing, my stress over the years. So it's a great reminder for me. One of the questions that came up, in today's world with stressors all over, uh, we've probably even become used to certain levels of stress and increased cortisol. How do we know if it's really reached an issue, or in today's world, we just assume that it's something that we need to tackle, from a multi-front protocol?
Yeah, I'd say it starts with diagnostics. First, we should be as in tune with our bodies as possible. And most people know when something isn't right, when something's a little bit off, but we should go to our doctors, get regular blood panels, look at markers of inflammation, get what's called an Oates test. The Oates test is an organic acid test, and this will tell us how our body is processing energy. If we're getting a hormonal panel, this would be, let's say, for the men and women are both going to have changes in their hormones over time. One of the consequences of stress is that it can reduce testosterone levels in men, and this is going to lead to a whole host of problems. But predominantly, the type of things that men think about is difficulty in building muscle and increases in body fat. When we think about accumulation of cortisol and we think about increases in body fat, that's going to contribute to increasing our risk for diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. So these are not trivial matters. When we're thinking of our overall longevity, we should be having diagnostics every 6 to 12 months. And we should be constantly evaluating our life and saying, well, am I drinking enough water? What is my diet like? Am I setting up my diet for success? Am I eating too much crap, or is my diet generally healthy? Do I get regular exercise? Um, so these are all important questions that we should be asking ourselves all the time.
Thank you for that. And we probably are more aware of some of the situational stressors that might increase, or elevate our heart rate or our cortisol levels. What about environmental stressors? Are there some things we can do, easy things to reduce the impact that those might be having on our bodies?
That is a really difficult one in the sense that when we talk about environmental stressors, we would talk about things like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, 5G. When we look at electromagnetic pollution, air pollution, there's mercury in the air and other toxins. We have poisoned our water, poisoned our food supply. We have genetically modified organisms. So when we talk about environmental stressors, this is not, again, a trivial matter. It's coming from all directions. So what we need to look at is how do those environmental stressors manifest themselves in the human body? And ultimately, it's going to show up as oxidative or inflammatory stress. So even if it's something like 5G, where it's electromagnetic in nature, it has to manifest as some type of biochemical change. So that's relatively good news in the sense that we know that antioxidants are going to manage that stress. So if we're keeping our antioxidant levels high through our diet, through supplementation, through managing emotional and physical stress, that's going to go a very long way to dealing with these external factors that we very often have very little control over.
Understood. Thank you. There was a question about telomeres and the impact that stress might have on the telomeres on our cells.
Yeah. I'll be speaking about this a little bit at
Great.
conference, but there are a number of ways that we can protect our telomeres. There's a study that shows that carnosine is one of the antioxidants that helps to protect the telomeres from shortening. There's studies in mice that show that carnosine supplementation will extend lifespan by 30 to 40%. And this is through protection of the telomeres. There's other ways to do it as well. But carnosine, beta-alanine supplementation, beta-alanine, which we have in Celergise, carnosine will help to protect the telomeres. There's other ways to do it, but carnosine is substantiated in the literature.
Great. Thank you for that. There was also another question just about age and how stress affects and how early that might start. Are we seeing people, even younger individuals being impacted by stress early in life, or is it more of a cumulative effect?
Well, I would say it's a big it depends because I've seen some horrific things for what parents do with their kids. I was living in Georgia when my son and daughter were born, and my wife and I, we went to the pediatrician, and she said, "Let me check the formula bottle that you have." And what she was looking for was whether or not we were feeding our baby Coca-Cola. And she said, "You would be surprised at how many parents give their infants Coca-Cola."
Wow.
I was absolutely shocked that people would do that. So, if we assume for a moment that a child has a healthy diet, which is not really a good assumption, I would say that people get a relatively free pass up until their early 20s. Everything in the body is working pretty well, but we start to age around 20 to 25. That's when the fibroblasts start to decrease production of collagen. So And everything else is working pretty well in terms of the way the body makes energy. Um, so we do need to start thinking about this when we're in our teens, when we're in our early 20s, about what's our plan in life. And these are these formative years. We should be exercising and just build it into our DNA that this is a lifelong commitment. We don't have to be a pro athlete or an Olympic athlete, but the mindset should be, hey, when I get to 70, 80, 90 years old, I want to be traveling the world. I want to be functional. If I want to work, I can do it. I want to have a healthy diet so I don't end up in a hospital. And if I am in an accident, I can recover. I want to supplement where needed. I want to use technology where I can avoid drugs. This is a mindset that we should have as early on in life as possible.
That's great. Yeah, important information for all of us as we're raising kids or helping grandkids to help guide this next generation. Can you talk a little on Eon about the catalyst? Kind of what was the inspiration for that? Where did it fit into the portfolio, and what was the main purpose behind that?
No, well,
Why? Yeah,
it was
it's a big question.
that's a long story. It's a really fun story. I was at a party in California with a bunch of doctors. I was actually at Suzanne Summers' house. I was in one of her books, and she invited me to a party with the other doctors that were there. And I was speaking with a doctor who will go nameless. We don't generally disclose what peptide we're elevating with Eon because if you were to Google it, you would right away find what it's used for. And those are medical claims that we don't want to make. So we don't share that with the community. But I had been speaking with a doctor who's extremely well known, and he said, "Well, I'm using this peptide in this specific type of therapy, and it's extremely expensive." And I thought, well, maybe I could design a patch that would elevate that peptide. So I flew down to go see him at his clinic, learn some information. We had a collaboration and we found out that the Eon patch was elevating this peptide. Um, so I got together with a medical doctor on our team and I said, we can never tell people what peptide this is. We can't make the claim. So what do we tell people that this patch is going to do? Because it was so important. I wanted our community to have access to it. So we did some further clinical studies and we found that one of the really powerful effects, God bless you, is that Eon was reducing stress in the body, and that was leading to some of the health benefits that we were seeing and this other doctor was seeing. So that's the very short version of it, and there's a longer version.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I hadn't heard that story yet before. That's really great.
Oh, it was fun. It was really fun and exciting to develop. Every one of the patches has its own kind of unique story, and Eon is absolutely one of my favorites.
Yeah, I love hearing those. And again, it must be so exciting because I know it's inspiring for us to see these products that you developed make it out to the marketplace. So another question, there's many of us on the call today that might be, newer into our wellness journey and maybe have been experiencing chronic stress for decades. So with the right LifeWave products, with the right lifestyle, the right diet, are those impacts reversible? Is there hope?
100%. What I would say is that first, if you're someone that has had chronic stress for 20 years, let's say you're someone that's 60, 70 years old, absolutely, there's still hope. I would recommend that you work with a doctor. Doesn't have to be a medical doctor. Work with a doctor, though, that will help guide you on natural therapies. You want to break down your entire life. You want to look at the amount of sleep, your quality of sleep. Are you engineering your sleep? Are you sleeping in a dark room? What's the quality of the bed? What are you if you're taking coffee, which I hope you're not, you don't want to have coffee at least 6, 7 hours before you go to sleep. These type of things You want to engineer your quality of your sleep, how much water are you drinking? Are you on any type of pharmaceuticals? Um, what is your diet like? Decrease the sugar, decrease the carbohydrates, go with a high protein, moderate, healthy fat diet, add things like olive oil and curcumin, which are natural anti-inflammatories. Follow some of the recommendations on supplements, patches, obviously. Um, but come up with a plan almost hour by hour and commit to that for 1 to 3 months. And most people are going to see within the first week a change in the right direction. I can't tell you how many people that I have patched over the years that have had chronic pain for 20 years. They get patched, and in 5 minutes, their pain is 50 to 100% gone. So, absolutely, doesn't matter your age, you can still turn things around, but it takes the correct mindset and being proactive and being committed.
That is really encouraging and inspiring for all of us. David, thank you for taking the time today, for putting this presentation together. We look forward to hearing more at conference. I know you're going to be sharing a lot of great product as well as lifestyle information that's going to benefit all of us. And one of the things today, even outside the product, that really stood out to me, and one of the notes I wrote down as a reminder for myself, was just how we start our days, starting with gratitude, making sure we're setting the tone, and the impact that that can have physically, mentally, and emotionally on all of us. But thank you again for developing these incredible products, for keeping us all on the cutting edge of wellness. I hope you're seeing all the clapping and the hearts
I
that
am.
are going up. It's incredible to see. But thank you for all you do and for helping light the way for all of us.
One final comment. Um, so let's see, I turned 62 this year. I don't like to speak it out loud because I don't like to speak it into existence, because I think of myself as being 32, to keep that in my mind. But when I exercise each week, I start out with 80 to 90 push-ups in a row as part of my warm-up. So that would be good for someone in their 20s. This is all just mindset. It's about being committed to a health and wellness program, doing all the right things. Age is irrelevant. I've seen people in their 70s, 80s, even 90s with phenomenal exercise performance. Um, so there's absolutely no reason, regardless of age, why you can't turn things around. There's absolutely hope, but you absolutely have to commit yourself to that program. So
It,
always hope.
always hope takes commitment, and thank you for inspiring all of us to make this commitment to improve our wellness and opportunity for everyone. So thank you,
Absolutely.
David. Thank you, everyone, for joining today.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Wayne.